Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Welcome to a Coffee with Karen, a cup of positivity with just a sprinkling of woo-woo. So every week, I have a guest discussing a topic of their choice from either a physical, a mental, or a spiritual perspective. So your host, my name's Karen Roberts. I help women who are stressed, overweight, lost their mojo, and help them regain their confidence. If you want to find out a little bit more, just go to KarenRobertsCoaching.com. But for today's show, I want to welcome, am I saying this right? Rohini, if you'd like to introduce
Rohini,
yourself,
yeah.
share a little bit about your story, about what you do and why you're here. Fantastic.
Sure. So I am Rohini. It's probably the only name that you're going to hear that rhymes with bikini.
There you go.
I run Livewire Media UK, where we do corporate videography and video marketing. And a part of what we do is helping people to develop their confidence so that they can speak effectively and deliver awesome looking videos. We've been doing that for, this is our 7th year now, and we teach people how to do videos virtually, or we can do it for them sort of face to face.
Fantastic. And I suppose, yeah, things have probably changed over this last year. Before, were you doing it virtually, or is that purely down to the position that we found ourselves in over the last year?
No, I was doing it virtually beforehand, but then when the pandemic hit, a lot of businesses, because they'd seen what I was doing online anyway, because I was always sharing my tips and tricks, they saw what I was doing anyway, and then they realized that they need to start looking at their video strategy. People kept coming in from all sorts of different locations, some the US, some down under in Australia. So logistically, it wasn't possible to travel to them. So I had to effectively do it all virtually. So that's how that kind of grew. Okay.
So can you share with the listeners, what made you step out into this? What's really your story, how you got here?
So when I was about 6 years old, my dad is a massive camera tech geek. He has to have the latest of everything. And so, do you remember those like digital cameras, the ones that were like the size of your head? He brought home one of those, and he was really fascinated with how it all worked. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a camera, let alone like a digital camera. And I just became fascinated with how I can point this piece of glass, which was the lens, and have it appear on the screen, which was behind the camera. And it just provoked my curiosity. And from then on, I kind of became fascinated with how things work sort of internally, how people work internally, and how technology works as well. And so video was kind of always a part of my life in one way or another. Then I went to uni and I studied media at uni, and I knew that when you're going into the media industry, it was all about who you knew, not necessarily what you know. So I made it a point to network a lot with corporate people when I was at uni. So when I left, I was like, right, people, I need some money. Come at me. Like, what have you got? I've got this really nice camera and I can make you an awesome looking video. So it kind of started out as a hobby. Then I went to work into the TV industry for a little bit, left the TV world and set up 2 businesses and moved house within a month.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, for a lot of people, I don't know about you, but I would say, I don't know, in the last 10 years, and maybe I'm talking about from my children's perspective, we really have grown. They really have grown up in this era of social media where they're very used to and very comfortable, maybe taking selfies, taking photos, but then they would be a little bit less confident about taking video, doing video of themselves. Why do you think that is? There's been a sort of a turnaround.
Massively turnaround, because especially for the elder generation, because they haven't grown up with the technology like the younger generation have. And I think there's been a turnaround because when you're talking to camera, it's only you. And it's a bit of a weird feeling because you're talking to an object that's not really communicating back to you. So you haven't got any feedback to go from. It's only you and what's going on in here. And it can make people feel very vulnerable, very self-conscious, very unconfident, and very much thinking, what am I doing? Why am I putting myself out there like this? And it can often hold them back. And it's a shame because video is one of the biggest ways that a business can actually grow their business.
Yeah, sure. I suppose it's all going back to that we hear sort of, all the time with business, because, any kind of business, even if they think they're doing business to business, it's still human interaction, human to human. So it's all based upon, I suppose, the know, like, and trust factor.
Absolutely.
And if you can't meet them face to face, it's got to be either in this setting or on Zoom or yes, in video. So have you seen a huge growth in the last, where would you say this has come from? What's happened?
Massive growth. So when the pandemic hit here in the UK, social media usage went up by at least 43%, which is crazy. And 95% of all online shared content during the pandemic came from videos. And yet only 5% of business owners were utilizing the power of videos. And that could be because they weren't sure of how to use it or where to begin. There's also a lack of confidence in using it as well, which is also another point, because when you're not sure about what to do with something, you're hesitant to do it, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
You put it off, you kind of make excuses to not do it.
Absolutely. Well, or overwhelmed. Sometimes, there's so much to think about, and we all know that, when there is confusion, when there is overwhelm, actually nothing gets done. What we need is very clear and precise tips or steps to follow to make it then easy, so that you have the confidence and you feel better about it. So where do you see, so you said there's been a huge increase, obviously, since the pandemic hit, which, of course, makes sense. Everybody's at home. I must admit, I wish I had shares in Zoom. I should have had shares in Zoom before we started, right? Yeah. So where do you see the future of video going?
It's only going to get bigger. A lot of people are thinking it's a hype, it's a bandwagon thing. But the reality is it's here to stay. And the reason it's here to stay is because people love consuming video content in one form or another. The reason that video is so powerful is because it taps into most of our senses. We can hear what the video is saying. We can feel what the video is saying. We can see it as well. We can form a deeper connection with the person that's on the other side of the screen, as opposed to if you were to look at a picture or a blog or a written piece of text. Don't get me wrong, those are still powerful, but the reason that video is sought is because it just taps into more of our senses, and it's more convenient for people to watch and consume. And because of that, more and more brands are getting onto videos as for their business, and more business owners, just like you and me, are utilizing the power of videos for their business, which is actually driving massive growth for not only social media, but video usage in general. And it's predicted by the end of 2022, that statistic that I mentioned earlier, where 95% of all online in video content is going to come from, that statistic that I mentioned earlier, where all online shared social media content is coming from videos, well, that statistic is actually going to be predicted to change to 95% of all internet traffic in general is going to be from video content.
Wow.
Which is massive.
Right. So, so then really people, how would you, for somebody who envisions doing a video, now they think it's got to be some, massive, expensive, professionally done video, and they would be scared of it. What would be your sort of thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing I say to people who feel like that is, I felt the same way, which was ironic because I'm a videographer. And yet I hated the idea of being on camera because, well, for example, like it took me 2 hours to do my first pre-recorded video because I kept getting everything stumbled. I froze, I got the sweaty palms, I got nervous, everything. But then I started to apply some tips that people had shared with me over the years, and it gradually got better. And also with my first live video as well, I had to delete that because it was just awful. So the tips that I will share with people to help them to get over those nerves and become confident in speaking on camera is tip number 1. Be open to potentially having positive feedback, because chances are when you put yourself out there, nobody else is going to hate on you. Nobody else is thinking the same things that you are thinking, because people are there for the value that you are giving to them. They don't care about how you look or how you sound or what you're presenting like, because they're bothered about the value. That's what they're tuning in for. Like nobody has ever purchased from me as a result of how my hair looks. Video.
Yeah. Well, and why is it? Why do we put so much importance, or we feel that it's got to be absolutely perfect? And yeah, why do we think that people are going to judge us rather than just take us at face value, or just like we were having a conversation if we met in the street? You know, where does this all come from?
I think a lot of people build it up in their minds as to what it should actually be like. And when you're doing videos, it's a lot easier to compare yourself to the people out there who are already doing it, who are already experienced, because there's loads of that. And there's not enough people who are sort of inexperienced doing it. So I think subconsciously we compare ourselves to other people and we think, I've got to be as good or as better as that person. And 99 times that's absolutely not true. So we build it up in our minds as to what we actually want to be presenting like. And if that image of ourselves isn't perfect, then we criticize ourselves. We look down on ourselves. We feel vulnerable. We feel lack of confidence. And we think that everybody else sees that within us, when actually they don't.
No.
They care about what you are delivering to them, the information that you are giving to them. They don't care about pretty much anything else.
Right. So for somebody out there who's never done video before,
Yeah,
but they want to do something to promote their brand on video, where do they start?
there's a lot of places that they could start. And now, you mentioned earlier, like if they're unconfident with doing videos. So I would first of all recommend working on your mindset, because that's a big part of also business growth as well. So work on your mindset, become confident, be open to having feedback. And then also when you actually do your videos, hold up some notes underneath the lens. So that way, if you do lose your train of thought, then you've got your notes to refer back to. And your eyes aren't deviating away too much from the lens. So you're always maintaining the eye contact with the viewer. And also hold up a vanity mirror behind the lens as well. Because we have a tendency, especially when we're first starting out, to want to look at ourselves. And as beautiful as we are, the viewer wants you to maintain eye contact with them. So by you holding up a mirror or positioning a mirror behind the lens, you can look at yourself, and to the viewer, it doesn't look any different.
Ah, there you go. Didn't think about that. That's something new. Cool. And yeah, I mean, one thing I do say to people is just to get in the habit of doing it. I mean, we've got everything at our disposal, right? We've got phones that can video us. So even like myself, years ago, I come from the fitness industry. So if ever we qualified in a new discipline, we would have to submit a video of us teaching a class. So I'm very much an in-person person, right? So I'll be fine teaching it. And then the moment that I knew that a camera is aimed at me, I would just turn into this blubbering wreck. And it took a very long time for me to get over that. But it is just, you do realize that it's just this comfort zone that you've got to step out, and that the more you do it and more relaxed, like in the beginning, I would try and script everything. And in the end, I just throw it away and I'd say to people, just speak from the heart, because otherwise an absolute script, you can just tell, can't you? If people are reading from a script.
And I always say to my clients who feel nervous before they start working with me, you know your product or your service or your business better than anyone else. So talk about it from the heart, because when you do that, people can sense your passion. Whereas sometimes when you're scripted, it can come across as a little bit robotic, and nobody likes that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that makes you even more nervous, because you're trying to remember this script, so then it doesn't flow. So yeah, so for anybody that is looking at starting out, is just get in the habit. Video yourself. You don't have to send it to anybody, do you? Just delete. No. But it is just getting in practice of almost seeing yourself on video as well, right?
There's a psychological reason why we hate the sound of our voice, though, on camera. I mean, when you first watch your videos back, did you think, oh my God, I look awful, I sound awful?
Yeah, and do I sound like, that's not me, that doesn't sound like me, because I listen to me in my head, and I sound very, very different to when I hear it back. Yeah, why is that?
The reason that is because our ears are obviously close to our jawline, so to us, the sound is coming from our jawline. Whereas to other people, as they travel through the air, the sound changes, so the voice does sound naturally different. So when we hear ourselves speaking, it's because we're hearing ourselves talking from the jawline here. So the acoustics are different to what somebody else would actually hear. So when we hear ourselves speak on camera for the first time, that's how we actually sound to other people, which is why we hate it, because we're not used to seeing or hearing that.
Yeah, sure. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So what do people need to consider initially when they're thinking about starting to do video?
Yeah. One of the first things is to consider is why you want to do videos in the first place. Like, what's your purpose behind it? Is it to get more leads? Is it to boost your exposure? Is it to get your brand credibility up? Is it to share internally? Whatever that particular need is, write it down, because there are different types of videos that will serve a different type of purpose. Once you understand what the purpose of the video content is, then have a look at your audience and look at their demographics. Where do they hang out? Not just online, but also offline as well. Like, where are they consuming their content from you? How do they consume their content? Do they look at it on a laptop? Do they look at it on a mobile? What kind of language are they using? The point I'm trying to make here is the more in depth that you know your audience, the better, because that way you can target their pain points. Now, when it comes to talking about people's problems on camera, because they always say to give value, and the way to do that is by solving people's problems. When your viewer comes to you, or a client comes to you in general, they're always going to come to you with the symptom, or the symptom. Now, the symptom is always going to have a deeper rooted cause of the problem. Now, your job as the business owner is to get to the deeper rooted cause, because when you start creating content that targets the deeper rooted cause of that particular problem, that's when you want to be a winner. Nobody wants a solution to their symptoms. They want a solution to their problems, because they don't want that problem to exist any longer. So, for example, if you were, say, a beauty person, you could do a video about top 10 makeup hacks to make you feel more confident, because that way you're talking to the surface level problem, the symptom, but then you're also saying this will help you to get more camera confident. This will help you to develop your confidence in another way. So have a think about the deeper rooted cause of the particular problem and start creating content around that as well. Don't overthink what you're going to talk about either. Don't overthink the video, especially when you're first starting out, because you can get overwhelmed with that, and nobody likes to feel overwhelmed, nobody likes to feel pressured. And people can sense that as well. Talk from the heart. Talk about what it is that you love to talk about. You can also give the viewers updates about your business as well. So if you're launching something new, get on a video and say, "Hi guys, I'm just launching this new product. Here's where you can check it out." Or you can use videos to kind of show the behind the scenes process. People love to see the authenticity. They love to see what's happening behind the brand because, as I'm sure you're aware, Karen, nobody likes a polished look anymore, really. Don't get me wrong, the polished looking videos are great, and I would like to get onto that later on. But in the beginning, just be 100% yourself, which is, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but it's like, imagine that you're just talking to one person, because that's it. You're just talking to one viewer on the other side of the lens. That's it.
There you go. So there's lots of different types of video that you could be doing that's going to benefit somebody, whether they have a company, whether they are their brand, or whether they're just a one-person band, right? They're self-employed. So should we have a look at the different types of videos and what would help each individual one? So where would you start?
So I think when you're starting out, if you're somebody who's not confident on camera, you could start to give tips and tricks about how your particular product or your service will help the viewer, because that's something that you are going to know in depth, inside and out, and you can probably talk about that fairly confidently. So start off with tips and tricks videos. People love to see like the value that you're going to be giving to them up front as well. And then there's also the proof in the pudding, testimonial videos. People love to see real life testimonials from real life people. Now, people tend to think, oh, but testimonial videos are staged. Yes, they are staged, but they're coming from an authentic person. And if that person has had a good experience with you, chances are they're willing to do a testimonial for you. They're willing to share how great the product or the service that you offer them actually is. So when you're with a client, ask them to just do a quick testimonial video for you. Chances are they're going to say yes, especially if they've enjoyed your service. And what that will do for your viewer, it's the same principle as if they were to read a review online. It builds the credibility, it builds that trust, and it builds that likability. And it makes the person think, well, if they've solved that person's problem, maybe they can solve mine.
Absolutely. Incredibly powerful, actually. Incredibly powerful. So with regards to also, I think time aspect can be a little bit of a fear factor for some people, because in their mind, if I've got to do a 30-minute or that's too much. But would you say less is more?
Yes and no. So chances are, if you're somebody who is super busy, there is stuff, and this is going to sting some of you, the chances are there's stuff on your calendar that doesn't need to be on your calendar. Now, that's a bit of a truth bomb for some people, but have a look at your calendar and think, what tasks can I outsource to free up my time? What tasks don't actually need to be done? Because chances are something on that list can get removed or be done externally. So look at the ways that you can free up your time. People tend to also think video is massively time consuming. And it is if you are doing the editing process and the sharing process, which is why it's better to outsource that to a professional. So in the beginning, use the videos kind of as part of your daily lifestyle. So I did this, especially when I was starting out. I would do a quick live video in the car to say, I'm just with a client at the moment. Here is why they're having their videos done. Here's how they're going to be using the videos at the end of the result. So what I was doing is I was taking people on that journey with me. So I wasn't having to carve out extra bits of time. I was just getting my camera out and doing like a selfie style video. And then eventually what I started to do was I started to block out time to do live videos. So I do a live video on my show every Thursday, and then I go live to my network at least once a week. And then I extract that content and then I repurpose the content again and again and again. So I did a live video last week. Off the back of that one live video, I've now got at least 8 additional pieces of video content that I can repurpose. And I can also take that piece of content and use it as a blog post. I can take quotes from it as well. I can extract it as a podcast or an audio. So there's lots of different ways that you can work smarter and not harder. The video probably is time consuming as you may think. So look at ways you can repurpose the content. So don't just do it once and think, I've got to come up with fresh new content every single time, because you don't. People forget what they've seen on social media this morning, let alone yesterday. So it's okay to reuse the content again and again and again.
Cool. So absolutely, I mean, yeah, I can understand that. So what you're saying is say you did, I don't know, a 30-minute video, you could break it down and you were doing, so like you said earlier about, I don't know, 10 top tips. Then that could be edited down. They could be 10 individual tips.
Yeah.
And then transcribed, so they could be individual blog posts, or so the one piece of work eventually can be spread out on different platforms for different things, in different formats, audio, video, written. So actually, when people put in the effort to do it, what you're saying is you can then, by the end of that week, you've got so much content to be plastering out on various different platforms. So actually, in effect, saving you a lot of time in the long run, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And eventually what will happen is people will start to see you in your business. They will start to want to start working with you. And then you've already got a bank of videos that you can then repurpose. So when you're ready to start paying somebody to edit them and share them on your social media, you've already got a bank of content that's there and ready to go for them. You don't have to come up with fresh new content every single time.
Right. Yeah, great. So it really is all about just, I suppose, being prepped for it and blocking it in just like you would any other part of your business. But the thing would be is, because you're in video, you're out there in front of them. People are getting to, it is building on the know, like, and trust, because they can see you, and warts and all. Does it matter if we go wrong? No, because then it means that you're a human being and you're real, and people are actually going to be, more attracted to that. Like you said earlier, I think you said we would go on to that. So there's the difference between the big kind of videos you're talking about here. Do not need to be perfect. They don't need to have perfect lighting, or you could do them. Yeah, I used to do them in my car. And I did wonder, maybe I shouldn't do it whilst driving. You could be stationary just because you're in your car. That's fine. That's enough. And then, of course, but then the other side to that is to have something a little bit more professionally done. Yeah. I suppose depending on your brand as well. But if you wanted some kind of actual promo video, is that what you're talking about? Something that's going to be slightly different? So
yes and no. So the inauthentic type videos, the ones where you're just out and about filming, like the selfie style videos, those are great to show, like maybe on your stories, to give people an insight as to the brand. They're great sort of ad hoc videos. But I always compare doing videos to going shopping. Now, if you were to walk into a shop and you were to notice if the lighting was slightly off or the audio was slightly off, would you notice that? Would you notice if the energy of the staff was slightly off as well? It's the exact same. You would, wouldn't you? And it's the exact same principle when it comes to doing videos. So the lighting, the audio, and the way that the camera is set up, it all influences our buying decisions as human beings.
On a subconscious level or
subconscious level?
Yeah.
Hollywood do it all of the time, where if they want to make somebody look bad, they will actually play around with the lighting to make them look bad. And they'll also play around with the colors as well, because what we see influences our buying decisions. So if you were to carry on doing poor quality videos that are sort of inauthentic. And what I mean by that is if you're just sort of doing, say, Zoom recording videos where you haven't got a proper lighting setup, or you haven't got a proper mic, and the camera is looking up at you, people will eventually pick up on that, and they will take that as their first impression of you. So try not to do that for too much or too long, because you want your first impression to be the best impression that you can possibly give. And I kind of compare it to if you were to buy, say, a product or a loaf of bread, for example. Would you rather go for the loaf of bread that was slightly beaten, didn't quite look right, or would you rather go for the one that looks great? It's the exact same product, but as human beings, we are drawn to the one that looks better, even if it's the exact same content. So be mindful of that when you're recording your video content. So when you're doing, say, like your live videos or a pre-recorded video and you're not out and about, make sure that the lens is eye level with your eyes, because as human beings, we are drawn to what is in the center of the frame first. And then make sure that you're at the center of the frame as well. Make sure that the lighting is nice and even, and make sure that you've got a good audio, good microphone, and a good clear background, or a background that kind of represents your business in the best way possible as well, because people do pick up on what's in the background, and it does influence their first impression of you, essentially. So it sounds a bit contradictory to say do polished videos, but then also do like unpolished videos as well. I think in the beginning, you can get away with doing the unpolished looking videos, and it's not that difficult to achieve either. But eventually you will get to that point where people will start expecting that level of quality from you.
Right. So initially, how can people start off? And so let's go through stages. So somebody's completely new. How can they start making videos just themselves? Would you recommend just their phone, or would you recommend a laptop? What would you recommend they start with?
I would prefer the phone, because the phone has better camera settings. When you get your phone, it comes with the standard camera settings, so you will have to fiddle around with the settings to optimize your camera. I have a course that teaches people how to do just that. So when you're first starting out, doing like selfie style videos is great. It's a great place to start. And then when you start to get more comfortable being on camera, you can get yourself a little selfie stick tripod, which is like a selfie stick, but it has legs on it that kind of split out like that. And then you can position your phone on that, and you can start talking straight to camera as like we're doing now. And then eventually, if you can, get a professional, get a studio if you like as well. Block out pieces of time in your diary to get professionally recorded video content done. Or actually, what we've been doing for a lot of our clients in the past few months is we've been showing them how they can optimize their smartphone, get the best lighting, get the best audio, and then they've been sending the videos to us for us to then edit, which saves them so much more time and so much more effort as well, because all they have to do is focus on recording the content, and we'll add in everything else for them. So those are to think about later on down the line.
Okay, and would you recommend? I know for mine, I do have a mic that I plug in, or are most phones sort of are good enough these
phones are good enough. It's more so the room that you're in is something to be considered. Think about the acoustics in the room. Like, are you getting a big echo? Is there a lot of background noise maybe happening from outside? If you do have a big echo, or the audio in the room isn't quite right, you can get yourself what's called a lavalier mic, or lavalier mic, different pronunciations. When you get it, make sure that the jack end of it, as in the bit that plugs into your phone, it has 3 clear black lines in it, because if it has 2, it means that it's not compatible for your mobile phone. So make sure that you get the one with 3 mobile phones, 3 black lines, and clip it on just about here, because that way you'll get the acoustics just right for the correct level of audio.
Right. Okay. So that's for somebody who's just starting out, so they can start by themselves, just with their mobile phone, maybe get a selfie stick or some kind of tripod to actually hold it on. And then again, depending on where they're going to be doing the video, like sometimes if you're at a networking event or somewhere where there's lots of background, lots of talking, by having that mic, which will just literally plug into the phone, is going to help with all of that. So that's stage one.
Yeah.
So then for somebody moving on, how do you help then business owners maybe sort of move to the next stage?
So we can show them what equipment that they would need to purchase in order to record the videos themselves from home. So for lighting, you can get a softbox light. They're quite big, but they're very, very powerful in terms of how they distribute the light. Now, if space is very, very tight for you, you can also get yourself a ring light. Ring lights, they vary in size, so the bigger, the better. And obviously with that comes the price tag, so look at your budgets as well. Softbox lights come in for around about £20 each, whereas ring lights can go from like £5 to £10 right up to £120. So have a think about your budget when you're looking at the equipment to purchase. And then in terms of the microphone, you don't need a big fancy expensive microphone. It looks great aesthetically, but the lavalier mic will do the job. Now, if you did want to go for the aesthetic look and get a big microphone, amazing. Any podcast microphone will do pretty much. You can just plug them straight into your laptop or your phone and you're good to go. And then make sure that you've got a good background as well. Now, if you're doing the green screen background, make sure that you light up the green screen separately, because what can happen is you get like a green halo around you and it doesn't look good and you'll look a bit glitchy. You've probably seen it sometimes on Zoom where people have got the green screen background and the lighting hasn't quite been right, so their hair sort of like glitches in and out or something like that. So
yeah, it would depend what hair color. I did go green for a little while, then I had a panic. I thought, well, I can't have a green screen because then my hair is going to blend in.
Exactly.
So you've got to think about these things.
So
Okay.
So green screen separately from both sides. So that way the green screen is nice and evenly lit, and then also have a light on you. So you are lit up separately to the green screen. And it will kind of differentiate you a bit from the background, because what can sometimes happen is if you don't do the lighting properly for your background, you can blend into it too much.
Yeah. Yes, I know I've seen that a lot, and I think with Zoom, I think you can have a green screen without having a green screen, if you know what I mean. So sometimes they just all of a sudden they'll disappear into the which is a little bit odd. Okay, so that's part of the service that you offer. So you can, number one, you can help advise on equipment for people if they're just starting out. So phase two would be if people were doing a lot of video, they could just upload them straight to you so that you edit it. Can you make them look more beautiful? And what can you do for me, Rohini?
Well, everyone looks beautiful anyway.
So it is, because that is what takes the time, isn't it? Editing and then uploading to whatever platform, it can drive me mad.
Part of what we do and part of what the audience should be doing when they're considering video is looking at the platforms that their audience hang out on the most. A lot of people tend to post on social media on the platforms that they are most comfortable with, and then they're not getting the results that they're looking for because A, they're not posting the content where the audience is hanging out, and two, they're not posting it in a way that the consumer wants to actually consume it.
Right. So so what have we got? We've got options are Facebook Live, you got on your Facebook profile, your Facebook page, your Facebook group.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, LinkedIn. You can do live, but I don't think everyone has access to that, do they?
They don't. You have to apply for it.
So there's LinkedIn, you've got YouTube, you've got, what else have we got? You can do Instagram.
And there's hundreds of other social media platforms as well that chances are your audience are also using them too.
Oh my goodness, do we spend our lives on social media?
So what I would say is, because again, that can feel overwhelming to begin with, thinking, where do I post and how do I post on that platform and what do I do? And so what I'd recommend doing is start off with 2 platforms that you know your audience use the most. Chances are it's going to be Facebook or Instagram, or Facebook and LinkedIn. Then look at the strategy. Then look at your sort of scheduling strategy. What kind of audience are you looking to attract? What kind of language are they using? What time of day do they post? What time of day do they like to start scrolling? You can check all that information by looking at your insights, and your insights will reveal so much. So do your research using your insights, which you can access via your business page, or on LinkedIn, you can access that via Sales Navigator, and make a plan based off the data as opposed to what you think is best.
There's a lot to think about. So can people come to you to get to help actually work all that out as well? Is that part of what you do?
Yeah, we can do all of that for them. And actually quite a lot of our clients like that as well, because it saves them so many hours in the working week, because we can help them to come up with content ideas, because we're the ones that have done the research for their audience. So we know exactly what their audience are looking for. And then we can say, okay, based on the research, this is what your audience is resonating with the most. Let's create content around that. So they'll then go ahead and record the video content, or if they're local, we can film with them face to face, and then we'll edit the content, or we'll break down the content to then repurpose later on. Now they can do all of that themselves, which is great. There's some great apps out there for people to edit their content if they've got the time to do it. But what I would say is, and this is going to sound very biased, is outsource it as soon as you possibly can, because it's not an area in your expert. Unless you're in video marketing yourself or marketing in general, focus on doing the activities that are actually going to grow your business, because otherwise you're going to be working in your business and not on your business.
Absolutely. And that just goes completely circles back to what we said at the beginning. When there's overwhelm and confusion, you don't want to get anything done. Whereas when you have a specific almost roadmap, and then a strategy, like you've got your daily method of operation, you know what videos you're going to do that day, that's going to save someone a whole ton of not just time, but headache and research, and then going over and checking. That's just going to eliminate so much of the stress, which is probably what puts people off even attempting it in the beginning, because it just seems like this is going to be a huge job and I just don't have time for it. So you're going to be saving people time as well. So for you, I mean, why do you think people should invest in videos?
Because it's what their audience are already consuming. It's almost like saying, as a business owner, you obviously want to grow your business, and video is the forefront of consumption for consumers right now. And it's kind of like saying, when you mow your lawn, do you want to mow it with a lawnmower or do you want to cut it with a pair of scissors? You're going to get results either way. It's just that doing videos is a lot quicker. And I get what you're saying about being a perfectionist. I am a perfectionist myself. But I think one thing you have to realize is that you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And what's great about video is it's going to sift out the people that you don't want to work with.
I would 100% agree with that. And I think in the beginning, like sort of if we flip back round to sort of why we're talking about this is, you know, even from the mental perspective, there's a lot of people that feel or perceive that they don't necessarily have the confidence to do it.
Yeah, and funny enough, what will eventually happen is when you start doing videos, you'll naturally become more confident in general. sometimes even the adrenaline gets going and you think, oh, I want to do that again.
Yeah. Well, half the time people just can't shut me up. So that's my biggest thing. But yeah, I it is a case of just getting out there and just doing it. And again, like I think in the beginning, there is this kind of thing that's attached to it. Oh, are they not going to like me or whatever? And once you get over, so my biggest tip to anybody out there is when you get over the fact that, like you just said, some people will like you, some people will love you, some people won't. And it's okay.
Yeah.
When you get that, all that goes away. And yeah, it's all about building your tribe. There's going to be some people that are just not going to listen to anything I say. Who's that mad woman with pink hair? They're just going to make a prejudgment, and I'm okay with that. That's absolutely fine, because I'm growing my tribe. It really doesn't matter who isn't going to connect with you, because yes, you want to connect with the people that you want to connect to and that you can then do business with. And I think that's a huge thing for some people to get over, the fact that, yeah, it's okay. Some people, they're not going to connect, and it's okay. So that is a huge, but that definitely is, you talked about earlier about it being a mindset issue.
Yeah.
So have you seen transformations? Have you seen real big transformations with clients from when you first started working with them to now?
Yeah, massively. I mean, the first stage is always the hardest. It's a bit like when you're on a roller coaster. I mean, if you like roller coasters, I mean, like, you feel the big difference, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? I regret this. I hate it. What am I doing? And then you do it, and then you're like, oh my God, I want to go again. So that first stage, that's always the hardest to kind of get over. And always remember that people are tuning into what it is that you are actually sharing with them. They don't care about the aesthetics or anything like that, because at the end of the day, if you're giving them value, people will show up and they will support you and they will love you for that as well. And if it's worth getting new clients for, isn't it worth giving it a go? One of the ways that a lot of my clients like to get comfortable doing videos is doing it with somebody else, just like this. So if you notice that somebody is doing live videos or like a podcast or a podcast show like what we're doing now, write to the host and say, hey, can I be on your show? This is what I can offer. And that way you're having a conversation with the host, as opposed to feeling the pressure of talking to potentially hundreds and hundreds of viewers. And then you can repurpose that content again later on.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great advice. And it is it's a lot easier in the beginning, isn't it? Because it is just conversational. That is it. And like you said very early on about, no one's going to know your business better than you. So, if somebody's going to ask you a question about your particular service or a product that you're using, you don't need a script, right? You're just going to naturally be passionate about talking about that particular product or that particular service.
Yeah. And
that is what is going to come across on video, right?
100%, yeah.
So then that's an easier intro for somebody.
Yeah.
So, okay, so people are, they've just got to go for it. And if they're not feeling good about it, just do it on your phone. You don't have to send it to anybody. You replay it for you, press delete, do it again the next day, and get into the habit of just doing it until you do feel happy and, okay, that'll do, that can go out. And then when you do Facebook Lives, it doesn't matter, because it's too late. We're live and it is what it is. And even that, I think, is a next stage to not caring. I don't mean caring, that's a bad word to use, but being less
like letting go.
Yeah, just let it, because it is what it is, right? So I think even not forcing, but pushing somebody, encouraging somebody to do Facebook Lives will help with a lot of that, self-critique issues that some people have. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's also important to mention that there is a difference, and you will know this difference as well. There is a difference between being unconfident on camera and unconfident in yourself as a person. So a lot of people who are not confident in themselves as a person, they put off the idea of being on videos. So if you're not a confident person in yourself, first of all, there's loads of like mindset books that you can read to help develop your confidence. Get a coach as well. Seek sort of outside help, because when you develop your inner confidence, you're much more likely to take on new tasks that scare you but are well worth it in the end. So just be mindful of that. Like, there's a difference between being unconfident on camera and unconfident in yourself as a person.
So actually what you're saying, doing this kind of work can actually have a lot more of an impact on somebody than just even their business.
It will usually highlight the reasons why they are not particularly confident, and they don't necessarily have to share that in public unless they want to. But I'll give you an example, and I'll keep everything private. So I was speaking with somebody the other day, and she was like, I really want to do videos, but I'm just not confident on camera. And the more we spoke, the more I realized that it's not a camera confidence issue that she actually has. She's been knocked down a lot in her life in general, and she's now rebuilding it back up again. She's healing through stuff. She's going through stuff internally. And until that kind of happens, that camera confidence is always going to be there. It's always going to be a thing for her until she starts to love herself, accept herself internally, and actually think, I'm not perfect, but I am an awesome badass.
Excellent. Well, there you go. So then that transformation is going to be way more powerful than just what actually she thought originally she was coming to you for.
Yeah.
Because she's going to get so much more out of it. And as we all know that we need to step out of our comfort zone. That is where, it's just the old adage. That's, if nothing grows in comfort zone, it's all out there. Yeah. So it's such a good lesson, I think, for anybody, because you're constantly pushing yourself to actually step out that comfort zone. And it is about becoming comfortable, feeling uncomfortable. It's okay. But it is something that we're going to naturally shy away from in the beginning. And it's interesting. So when I said right at the beginning, like my children, they would, the amount of photos, my iTunes or something was linked to one of my daughters. So I'd have all these photos on my phone, and it's just selfies and hundreds of them. And I'd think, I have almost a fear of photos, which is so backward, because I will get up and speak in front of people. I will do video, no problem. Yet my comfort zone is, I've got a thing about photos or taking a selfie. It's completely bizarre, but we're all different, right? And so whatever it is that we are uncomfortable doing, we've got to keep pushing ourselves out, so that eventually we're just comfortable doing it. Yeah?
Yep, 100%, yeah.
Interesting. So if there is anybody out there who knows that it would probably benefit them, their business, and they would like to sort of start, but they don't have the time, and maybe they would like somebody to edit them, how would they get in touch with you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. The tag is just there, right there, Livewire Media UK. I also have an online course that people can check out. It's a crash course of where to start with videos, how to develop your camera confidence and speak with confidence, and how to edit the videos afterwards. It's like a starter kit for starting out in videos. It gives a comprehensive guide as to what to do and what not to do. So I can drop the link to that in the comment section afterwards. And I'm pretty much all over social media, so connect with me. Just tell me, hey, I saw your interview on Karen Roberts show, and I'd love to connect.
Fantastic. Yes, I will put all the links underneath. This will be going out. Obviously, if you're listening on Mintwave Radio, don't worry, there will be some. If you go onto the Mintwave Radio website, you will be able to find it. Otherwise, just go to KarenRobertsCoaching.com/blog and you will get it. But if you're listening in on other places, you will have all the links down below. So fantastic. So for you, how long have you been doing this from a business point of view, Rohini?
About 7 years now, yeah. Started making videos when I was about 6. I just started calling it a business about 7 years ago.
And have you found there's been huge growth?
Yeah.
What's changed, would you say, in the last year because of COVID?
Probably my mindset. Yeah, I think for each stage of your life, your mindset needs to be at that next level. So I've done a lot of growing within myself to get to that next level. I think in terms of videos, what's changed is there's been a massive consumption for videos. People just can't get enough of them. So a lot of businesses have started to realize the power of videos and started to want to use it for their own business to not only work smarter, but not only it's just basically, it saves them so much time in the long run, because they don't have to go out to networking unless they actually want to. They don't have to spend as much time on their other marketing efforts unless they want to.
Yeah, sure. And then and another thing to think about is, once you've done it once, like if you built up a whole library, depending on sort of obviously what business you're doing, but if you're in the sort of training, coaching arena for anything, doing videos for the how-to, once you've done it, what is there? You've got a library of stuff that you could send clients if they need help with anything. Even things like that can help time. I personally, if I'm trying to show somebody something, I'll use Loom because, there's so many things out there. There's so many different apps. It just makes life so much easier because if somebody can be shown something, for a lot of people, if they are still new to the social media or doing stuff online and they don't know what to click, so even showing them around your own website sometimes can be beneficial in a video because it's saving them time trying this and getting that wrong. And so the list is endless in ways actually video can help you individually as a business. So thank you very much for your time, Rohini. Again, I have all the information down below. And so even if it is really to do for a confidence boost, I think the transformation for somebody who is very camera shy to just getting in front of the camera and you said it earlier, talking from the heart doesn't have to be anything scripted. You're not trying to pretend to be somebody else, pretending to be somebody that you're not. It's just you being you, building up the know, like and trust factor for you and your business.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Awesome. So thank you for your time, Rohini. To the listeners here, thank you. I will be back next Monday with a coffee with Karen. So tune in then. Thanks for your time. Bye for now.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.